Welcome to this video on DigComp Edu Strand 3.4 Self-Regulated Learning. In this video we will look at self-regulated learning strategies, in particular incremental assessment. This video will explore if process-based learning is a strategy to support self-regulated learning and provide an example of how incremental assessment can support process-based learning and self-regulated learning. Process-based teaching through incremental assessment offers a solution to teach self-regulated learning in an explicit manner. This approach involves a set of smaller assessments over time that provide opportunities for feedback, reflection and student learning while supporting the final summative assessment. Let us look at this in practice. Traditionally, assessment doesn't form an integral part of the teaching and learning process. Often assessment comes at the end and is not explicitly taught as we teach the lesson. Assessment for learning is where assessment is an explicit element of teaching. One way of doing this is through process-based teaching or incremental assessment. This involves a smaller set of assessments that are taken over time to support the summative assessment. This involves looking at the summative assessment and breaking it into smaller, more manageable sub-assessments that involve different self-regulated strategies, such as setting goals, peer assessment, self-assessment, or task breakdown. Let us look at an example of this. An example assessment brief may be where a student has to develop a report that shows their understanding of the natural processes that causes earthquake and volcanic eruptions. This summative assessment can be broken to 5 distinct sub-assessments, each building on the previous ones. Assessment or Activity 1 would involve understanding the assignment. This would involve assessment literacy. In class, students will explore the purpose of the assessment and what the assessment brief means. A glossary of terms will be created from the discussions in class. From home, students will each take some number of those terms and research these and enter an explanation into the online glossary. This will facilitate vocabulary building and understanding of the different terms of the assessment that are required for more study. The second activity involves setting goals and choosing strategies. As an in-class activity, in groups, or as in independent homework tasks, students might have to explore examples of good and poor reports. AI-generated pieces might also be explored. Students then might give feedback on these, and as a class, we might then brainstorm a rubric for assessing the report and agree this. This allows students to set goals or aspirations in terms of what they want the final rubric to look like or assessment to look like, and also a breakdown of different things they need to explore to facilitate strategies that enable them to complete the report. The next activity may involve planning the report. Students may have a homework activity or an individual activity to submit a plan to the teacher of how they want to express their learning and different headings they proposed for use in the report. This allows them to identify a structure for the report and get them to think about the strategies they will use to express their learning and why. In class, students will be asked to research sources for the report, and they will create a list of resources they plan to use, 2 to 3. They will explain why, and they'll present these to peers in class who will give them feedback on the sources they used and if they're relevant. This facilitates planning and task breakdown. The next task or sub-assessment may involve creating a draft of one of the sections of their report. Students can choose to draft a 2-minute presentation script for one of the sections of their report. They present this to a critical friend, and using the rubric, this critical friend will construct peer feedback. The students then will be able to evaluate their work and make improvements. This gives students experience of assessment and self-assessment and providing opportunities to improve their work. Lastly, the final submission will involve students submitting their final report to the teacher. As part of this, they may have to submit a reflection sheet on how they aligned to the rubric criteria and how they felt they did overall. This facilitates self-reflection. As you can see, incremental assessment provides opportunities for students to work through the self-regulated learning process while achieving an end goal. It breaks learning into manageable tasks and supports the process of learning and learners in achieving that goal in a structured way. It models things such as setting goals, providing continuous feedback, regulating your own learning, and peer learning. To implement process-based learning, it's important to look at the end goal and provide opportunities for students to engage in smaller subtasks to allow them to set goals and self-evaluate the learner.